when you have polling that shows like 70+% of Americans support what Trump is saying, that should tell you something. They're like, nope, we care about the 30. Let's focus on the 30%. And I'm just like, it's common sense. We have immigration laws for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we should stick to them or change the immigration laws. But don't just pretend like, oh, he's just being some thug who's just sending in the military. No, there's shit burning down. Any common sense person would be like, yeah, the police can't handle this. Send in whoever to stop it. They don't like it. So they're very common sense things. And I'm not trying to be a partisan by saying, yeah, maybe we should do something about this.
Yeah. So let's get into the book.
Yeah.
The Children We Left Behind, How Western Culture Rationalizes Family Separation and Ignores the Pain of Child Neglect. I have not read this yet because you just gave it to me yesterday.
Yes.
I know a little bit of your story, but start with your personal story because I assume that's the basis of the way you build out your theory.
Yeah, the core of it is talking about my childhood. I am writing from a child's perspective. I was born in Detroit. My father was 50, my mother was 24. He was married when I was born to somebody else. So we were like the other kids. He would come around once in a while to help. According to my mom, I was very young. He would come around once in a while. Detroit was getting worse. Going from having a couple of drug addicts and all these gangs and stuff like that were coming around. So my mother wanted to get out of Detroit. So we had left, went to Virginia for about a year. When we left, I rarely saw my father. Rarely heard from him either. Went to Virginia for about a year or so, then moved to upstate New York to stay with another family member. Things didn't work out rather quickly. We abruptly left. We were homeless for a bit. My mother ran into this lady who had a trailer, and she had a room available. So myself, my sister, and my mom stayed in a one-bedroom of trailer for about 2 months. We saved up enough money to get an apartment, but by then I was struggling. I was struggling mentally. My sister remembers me holding myself in a fetal position underneath the kitchen table and screaming. And my mom told me how I told her that if she loved me, she would help me die. And that, like any mother, that would be heartbreaking to hear from her 8-year-old. So she went to the professionals, and I remember the day that I got admitted into a mental hospital. And subsequently, I was there for 3 months. And the way I describe it to people, when you go to jail for 3 months, you know when you're getting out. When you go to a mental hospital, you don't know when you're leaving. It's just up to some person to arbitrarily say, yeah, they can go home now. Add that to being an 8-year-old child, add that to your mother comes to visit you and thinking like, is today the day I get to go home? She has to tell you no. And I wasn't until maybe like a decade ago when my sister brought this up, because many of these things I suppressed. I just tried to block out until my sister brought it up one day. But that was the first time I heard my mom's perspective, because my sister was with her when they would come to visit. I was 8, my sister was 12, so she remembers these things a lot clearer than I do. And she would say, Mom would cry the entire drive home every time we go and visit, because her little boy is stuck in this place. So, not long after getting out, I think it was like a couple years later, we ended up homeless again. Got evicted and ended up in a homeless shelter, I think for about 3 months. And my mother was working. She just got scammed out of her apartment. They took her deposit and left. So it was all that stuff happened probably by the age of 10 or so. And especially it was a rough 6 to 10 years old. It was just a lot of things going on, constantly moving. Before the age of 18, I've lived in 4 states. Like, we just moved a lot. There was just a lot of stuff always going on. My father wasn't really there in the picture at all. I would see him, I think since I left Detroit, probably saw him a handful of times. And he would come through to either upstate New York or New Jersey, where we were living, to go get fabric in New York City. But he wasn't there to see us. He was there as a pit stop to go get fabric,
Obviously, this frames your entire outlook on the importance of actually having a father who's present.
Yeah.
What's the thesis of the book? through the lens of your story?
I would say the thesis of the book is similar to what we mentioned before, that the big social issues have the common link of family separation for a lot of these different people. And I use my story as an example. Like, I'm not the extreme situation. I never got into drugs. I didn't even drink alcohol until my 30s, so and I never got into crime or anything like that, but I suffered greatly when it comes to depression, suicidal ideation, even into my adult years, low confidence, all these different things that held me back for a long time, and it took me a long time to overcome. And that is far more common. My story is far more common to see than, the drug addict on the street, the guy who's breaking into your house. So while you may know someone who grew up single parent home, or the kids went through divorce, and they appear fine, you don't understand the journey. You don't understand how they could have made that choice. They said, what is the point of this? Why don't I just end my life? Like, plenty of times I could have made that choice, especially in my early adult years, to just say, just forget this. But a lot of it was, in my early adult years, I wanted to live for my son, because I had my son at the age of 21.
Thank you for watching Kibbe on Liberty. You can watch new episodes every Wednesday anywhere that you consume podcasts, on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, whatever. Watch, click, like, check it out.